Welcome to part 4 of our video series about the real Jesus in the Bible. This exposition is from the Bible Revelations of the late teacher Erano Martin Evangelista from the website www.name.ph. In our previous videos, we learned how Jesus is not a direct son of God, but only a descendant from the house of King David, who was sent to accomplish what King David's son, King Solomon, failed to complete in God's decree in 2 Samuel 7:12-14. Solomon was able to build a house for God's name but failed to make it known to the Israelites because he built other temples for the gods of his wives. We also learned how Jesus had failed his mission, because instead of leading his fellow Jews in knowing God's name through the house built by King Solomon, Jesus pretended to be a direct son of God and propagated that a church will be built in his name, all because of Peter's flattery. We learned as well how the late teacher Erano Evangelista is not set against Jesus but rather the messenger whom Jesus mentioned in Revelation 22 verse 16. In the said Bible verse, Jesus said he will send an angel or messenger to proclaim and testify the truth that he, Jesus, was only an offspring or a descendant of David, meaning not a son of God, and was also the bright morning star. Here in part 4 of our series, we will now learn why did Jesus say that he is also the bright morning star in Revelation 22 verse 16. We will begin with first knowing who wrote the book of Revelation. Is he an apostle of Jesus as claimed by the religions? May we now share what the late teacher Evangelista had revealed to us about the true identity of the writer of the book of Revelation in Revelation 22 verses 8-9. I, John, am the one who heard and saw these things. And when I had heard and seen them, I fell down to worship at the feet of the angel who had been showing them to me. But he said to me, "Don't do that. I am a fellow servant with you and with your fellow prophets and with all who keep the words of this scroll. Worship God." Revelation 22 verses 8-9. Your fellow prophets. The religions assumed that the author of the book was the man they call John, the divine, an apostle. However, the book of Revelation was written by John of Patmos, who was also a prophet of God. Worship God. This means we should worship God and not Jesus. Teacher Erano Evangelista once said that if Jesus had successfully fulfilled his mission as written in the prophecies, there would be no need for the book of Revelation. Question: is it true that the apostles made false testimonies about Jesus? Let us read in Revelation 2 verse 2. I know your deeds, your hard work and your perseverance. I know that you cannot tolerate wicked people, that you have tested those who claim to be apostles but are not, and have found them false. Revelation 2 verse 2. As we can read in the said passage, it is true that the apostles made false testimonies about Jesus in their writings. They did not reveal to us the truth that Jesus was only a descendant of David prophesied in 2 Samuel 7:12-14 and that his death was for his own wrongdoing. Question: what did Jesus mean when he admitted he was also the bright morning star as written in Revelation 22 verse 16? Let us remember that teacher Evangelista had already revealed that Jesus is only an offspring of David spoken by God in 2 Samuel 7:12-14, whose painful death and suffering was because he committed iniquity. With such truth about Jesus now exposed to the whole world, what prophecy, in the scriptures, will now take effect? Let us read in Isaiah 14 verses 9-20. Let us begin with verse 9. The grave below is all astir to meet you at your coming. It rouses the spirits of the departed to greet you, all those who are leaders in the world. It makes them rise from their thrones, all those who were kings over the nations. Isaiah 14 verse 9. This is the event that will happen once the whole world knows who Jesus really is. Makes them rise from their thrones. Leaders of religions, nations and organizations will be surprised to learn the real identity of Jesus in www.name.ph. What will they say? Let us read Isaiah 14 verse 10. They will all respond, they will say to you, you also have become weak, as we are, you have become like us. Isaiah 14 verse 10. They will say that their expectations regarding Jesus were very remote from the truth. That they were wrong in their own supposition that Jesus was a powerful person, higher than the angels, without sin and perfect, only to discover that he was just a man. To continue in Isaiah 14 verse 11. All your pomp has been brought down to the grave, along with the noise of your harps, Maggots are spread out beneath you and worms cover you. Isaiah 14 verse 11. As we can read, all your pomp has been brought down to the grave. Those words of Jesus about being a literal Son of God were just pompous claims, and that is what led him to his cruel death. Worms cover you. Jesus died, did not rise again, contrary to everyone's belief. Question: what shall we call Jesus now that he is fully revealed as just a son of David who was punished by God? Let us read in Isaiah 14 verse 12. How you have fallen from heaven, O morning star, son of the dawn! You have been cast down to the earth, you who once laid low the nations. Isaiah 14 verse 12. He will now be known as the morning star. And this morning star in another version is, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning! How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations. Isaiah 14 verse 12. King James Version. This would mean all those stories about Lucifer becoming Satan is not true. The word or term Lucifer was used to replace the term morning star in the prophecy. In reality, it is all about a prophecy regarding Jesus. Let us also read this Bible verse in other Bible versions. In the Contemporary English Version, CEV, we can read, "You, the bright morning star, have fallen from the sky. You brought down other nations, now you are brought down." In the Good News Bible version we can read, "King of Babylon, bright morning star, you have fallen from heaven. In the past you conquered nations, but now you have been thrown to the ground." It is clear. In other Bible versions the term bright morning star is what is written. It was replaced with the word or title Lucifer in other versions. This means the real story of Lucifer or the bright morning star is not about a fallen angel but about a man whom everyone thought to have died for the sins of humanity but will be exposed as one who had sinned against God. Question: why is it that the passage in Isaiah 14 verse 12 says, "fallen from heaven"? Answer: because everyone thought Jesus went up to heaven, but we are shocked to learn that he died. All will be surprised to know that Jesus never left the earth. What did he say when he was still alive? Let us read now in Isaiah 14 verse 13. "You said in your heart, I will ascend to heaven, I will raise my throne above the stars of God, I will sit enthroned on the mount of assembly, on the utmost heights of the sacred mountain." Isaiah 14 verse 13. Let us read what Jesus said about himself. Let us read in Luke 22 verses 69 to 70. "But from now on, the Son of Man will be seated at the right hand of the mighty God." They all asked, "Are you then the Son of God?" He replied, "You are right in saying I am." Luke 22 verses 69 to 70. Jesus was very ambitious. He wanted to go up to heaven and wanted people to know and accept that he was the Son of God. What else did Jesus say? In Isaiah 14 verse 14 we can read, "I will ascend above the tops of the clouds, I will make myself like the Most High." Isaiah 14 verse 14. Let us read how Jesus said such words in John 10 verses 29 to 30. "My Father, who has given them to me, is greater than all, no one can snatch them out of my Father's hand. I and the Father are one." John 10:29 to 30. Jesus really wanted to be like God. Through the deceptions of the religions, people believe that Jesus is a God. He said that he will ascend to the heavens. Is he really in heaven? Let us read Isaiah 14 verse 15. "But you are brought down to the grave, to the depths of the pit." Isaiah 14 verse 15. As it has been prophesied, he died as a result of the punishment inflicted upon him, for his iniquity. Let us continue our reading in Isaiah 14 verse 16. "Those who see you stare at you, they ponder your fate. Is this the man who shook the earth and made kingdoms tremble?" Isaiah 14 verse 16. Those who see you stare at you, they ponder your fate. This is now happening through this revelation. People will now ponder on Jesus' disappointing fate. Is this the man? Meaning the bright morning star or Lucifer is not Satan but the man Jesus. Everyone will say that this man is the cause of the division and sufferings that we are all experiencing at present. Let us read Isaiah 14 verse 17. "The man who made the world a desert, who overthrew its cities and would not let his captives go home." Isaiah 14 verse 17. Captives, those who have placed their faith in Jesus. Because of Jesus' false teachings being followed by humanity, The world was under God's curse. Let us continue our reading in Isaiah 14 verses 18 to 19. All the kings of the nations lie in state, each in his own tomb. But you are cast out of your tomb like a rejected branch, you are covered with the slain, with those pierced by the sword, those who descend to the stones of the pit. Like a corpse trampled underfoot, Isaiah 14 verses 18 to 19. He died and did not really rise up from the dead. What was his other sign? In Isaiah 14 verse 20, we can read, "You will not join them in burial, for you have destroyed your land and killed your people. The offspring of the wicked will never be mentioned again." Isaiah 14 verse 20. You will not join them in burial. This means Jesus is still nailed to the cross in the churches. Is the morning star Satan as told by the religions? Let us read in Revelation 12 verse 9. The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him. Revelation 12 verse 9. Clearly, there is only one Satan, that is also the dragon, the serpent, and the devil. Satan is not a man as the religions thought it to be. Question: Is it really true that the bright morning star mentioned in the prophecy in Isaiah 14 9-20 is not Satan? Let us read another verse in Revelation 20 verse 2. He sees the dragon, that ancient serpent, who is the devil, or Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. Revelation 20 verse 2. The Holy Bible is consistent regarding the identity of Satan. He is not the morning star or Lucifer, in other Bible versions, mentioned in Isaiah 14 verses 9-20. Question: Who admitted that he is the morning star? Let us read in Revelation 22 verse 16. I, Jesus, have sent my angel to give you this testimony for the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David, and the bright morning star. Revelation 22 verse 16. Jesus admitted he is the bright morning star prophesied in Isaiah 14 verses 9-20. This prophecy will now take effect because the truth about him as only an offspring of David prophesied in 2 Samuel 7:12-14, who was punished by God with the floggings of men, is now exposed to the whole world. We learned this revelation through the late teacher Evangelista's Bible exposition in the website www.name.ph. He was the angel or messenger sent to testify or expose the real Jesus, that he, Jesus, is only the root and offspring of David and also the bright morning star or Lucifer. Question: If Jesus' painful death was because of his wrongdoing as prophesied in 2 Samuel 7:12-14, how did Jesus acquire the power to do miracles? Who offered him such power? We will learn this in part 5 of our video series. Let us now know God's true name, his true teachings, and the real identity of Jesus in the Bible, by visiting the website www.name.ph. The website does not promote a new religion or faith, but only to share God's true message. Thank you for watching.